Uh, Today we have Zach, a TikTok creator, small business owner, Dungeon Soap on TikTok. Zach, thank you so much for joining me today. We're excited to have you and to talk about not only your TikTok, but what you got on your business site as well.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. So, got some questions for you. We'll kind of riff off of those. Any follow up that may pop up. So, I'm just gonna lead off to it with it. When did your love for D&D and maybe any other tabletop RPGs? When did that begin?
So I've always kind of had an interest in D&D. My family's always been big into like board games and stuff like that. Usually, more kind of typical like Hasbro kind of stuff.
Sure,
Um, Big into fantasy always. So when I think I was like 12 or something like that, when D&D popped onto my radar,
sure,
super into it. I had some neighbors who played it. They were like 5 years older than me. They didn't want to play with a 12-year-old, which makes sense. Um, so when I asked them to play, they were just like, "Yeah, here, if you want to play, you have to read this whole book." And they gave me the player's handbook, and they were like, "We're playing in 3 days." And as a 12-year-old, I was like, "There's no way I'm reading this whole book." So I just shelved the idea of
hmm,
D&D for like probably a decade.
okay,
Um, and maybe like a year before the pandemic, I kind of got back into it and started hosting a bunch of in-person games, and then
okay,
everything went online. And when everyone was home and a lot of my friends' schedules kind of lined up, we all just dove into it together.
sure.
So we were playing, like 2, 3 games a week of different campaigns, different people DMing, different, group makeups. It was a little much, but um, I've kind of tapered off to a healthy balance since then. Um, but I've been pretty heavy into D&D, uh, probably for like 6 years or so now.
Okay. So did you originally jump in with 5e or what was it 4.5? Where did
It
you
was
kind of come in?
originally it was fifth edition. That
Okay.
that's what was out at the time.
Sure.
I honestly I haven't played any of the older editions. I've played with a bunch of people who have, um, but no one. I'm a forever DM, so no one ever wants to run the older
Yeah.
editions. So it's my way or the highway.
I completely get that. So I guess in the past, or if you ever get to play a character again, what kind of is your go-to class? What are you like, this is my niche, this is I like to Eldritch Blast, or I like to throw an arrow, shoot an arrow. What's kind of your thing?
I really like to play bards,
Okay.
because I think everyone in my group usually is more uh like heavy in their role, so it's like someone's a mega tank or amazing at healers
Yep.
or whatever. Um, and as the DM, I find that a lot of my players are missing some of that like middle ground.
Sure.
Um, it's like the only face character they have is a warlock who's like a huge asshole, and like just gets him into trouble. So it's I really enjoy being like a non-stereotypical bard. Like
Sure.
I'm not hitting on everyone. I
Sure.
really like to get into shenanigans with you know bardly stuff and a lot of the magic that they have by like trying to throw concerts in towns as distractions, and
Sure.
using magic mouth is like one of my favorite spells. So
Oh
they
yeah.
can just get up to a lot of hijinks, which I think is a lot of fun.
Well, and I think that and I think honestly, Sam Riegel on Critical Role really helped to bring bards to the forefront with Scanless Shorthalt. But in my opinion, bards are one of those classes that, yes, I mean they are magic heavy, but they can use those finesse weapons if they
Yeah,
need
for sure.
to. They can get in for a quick little stabby stab and then immediately disappear, or they will die.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
mean the what is it, College of Valor?
yeah,
They could be, I mean, obviously not like tanky, but they get pretty
sure.
hardy.
There's that the College of Swords, and I mean, there's so many homebrew um uh subclasses out there. I spaced on the word for a moment. but easily, like when I'm scrolling like either an Earthed Arcana or even D&D Beyond or something, and I see all these subclasses where like it makes a bard not just the happy fun time guy, but willing to also stab you. I'm like, okay, that'd be fun to have. I don't know if I'd want to play that, but that'd be really cool to DM, I think, as I am also a forever DM. um so what inspired on your TikTok, you're like, hey, steal this character, hey, steal this concept. Where do these ideas come from, or where does this inspiration come from?
It really comes from all over the place. And you can see it in some of the comments that I get. People are like, "Oh man, this sounds like, something from Red Dead or something from One Piece or
Sure.
this other like a super obscure thing that like I may never have read or watched before." Um, but I do get a lot of inspiration from reading and watching content in my
Sure.
own life. I do have a very um active imagination, so like
Sure.
when uh I find myself daydreaming a lot, and like one of the more recent videos I posted about a beekeeper. Um there's this lady on TikTok, mega famous beekeeper lady. She's
Mhm.
in Austin. The Austin Bee Works. uh I don't know where exactly they are, but she's that woman, that blonde lady that's like always scooping up like armful of bees with no gear on or anything.
Oh.
So I came across one of her videos and I was like, oh shit, I've never used a beekeeper. I'm always looking to like weird professions to bring
Right.
into my games. And
I, I was
that's
gonna
a
bring that
big
one up. That one
foundation.
was awesome. I actually I stole that from my game.
I hope it
That
went well.
so I haven't actually introduced the character yet. They have to get to that point. But I love the concept of it. Just because it is I mean, it is relatable, but because I mean, beekeepers actually exist. You're not actually, you know, everyone's gone to see a wizard, a mage, or some eldritch being millions of times, and but having an NPC that's more grounded in real life, I think, is more fun. Um, but yeah, so because you have quite a few videos of not even just stealing, or I'm not saying steal, you steal this content, but
I
you
mean, that's
have
what I say. That's what I say. It's fine.
NPCs, you have concepts, you have interesting chases, um, a lot on here, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna use in some way, shape, or form, because
Thank you.
I
That's like that's the biggest honor I can get when people are like, "Yo, I'm gonna use this in my game." That's great. I love it. It makes my day.
and when you dive into D&D talk deep enough, you start seeing all these beautiful concepts and ideas that, let's be real, as forever DMs, we either get burnt out using the same motifs with different games, or we just hit that imaginative block. We have built this world now, or even if we're using a preset campaign setting, um eventually we all hit writer's block at one point, and
Oh,
we
for
need a
sure.
little bit of a boost. And so I appreciate definitely your channel, and channels like that kind of are stimulating to DMs, which especially those that have been playing since the earlier editions,
Yeah.
um they've seen it all, supposedly. And so there's only there's just so much knowledge that we have before we need to look outside. So I appreciate your content, definitely.
Thank you.
um it, I'm curious how many, because you said you've brought down the games that you are run or are in down to a manageable level. How many games are you currently running or are in?
Um, so I run a game every other Wednesday. That's been going on for about a year.
Okay.
And I'd say we're maybe 50 or 60% of the way through. That's like a really
Okay.
big, slow moving,
Sure.
kind of apocalyptic type campaign.
Sure.
Um, I'm a player in another game on alternating Tuesdays where we're using the Genesis system. I don't know if you're familiar. I
I'm
wasn't
not.
until we started playing with it. Um, It doesn't use numerical dice at all. They all just
Okay.
have like symbols and stuff on it. So
Hmm.
you get a pool of dice based on your skills, and then all the symbols add up to pass fail basically.
Okay.
But we're doing a One Piece themed campaign, so um, I'm the pirate captain. I have devil fruit. Other members in the group are crew members that specialize in like navigation or
Mhm.
repairs or what's the word? Helmsman. So
Sure.
that's pretty fun. On Monday, I'm starting another game that's going to be short. That's in the Savage Worlds rule
Okay.
set.
Okay.
That's new to me, but I'm pretty stoked about it. That's going to be a Cowboy Bebop inspired game.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, so space cowboys, a lot of jazz, bounty hunting type of stuff. So I've spun up a little intergalactic thing. Um, and then when that's over, we're gonna switch on that same day, uh, still with Savage Worlds, into a 1920s gangster themed campaign.
Okay.
So three, I guess, right now with one on deck.
Sure. And that's just a wide breadth of I would say of genres. Obviously, you have, the sci-fi futuristic, you have roaring 20s going on, you got the high fantasy. How I am curious to see how you keep notes of everything between all these games.
Um, Let
Mine's a
me be honest
madhouse.
with you. Let
There's
me
so
be
many
honest
sticky
with you.
notes.
Here is my session. So this is my notebook. So for the year-long campaign, I literally wrote nothing down last
Mm,
session.
okay.
I don't know how I keep track of 3 games without taking notes, but
Sure.
my brain is weird. Some sessions have a little bit of notes on there, but yeah, last week I didn't write down shit.
It-
But
That's how it is
it
sometimes. I get that.
everything is weirdly compartmentalized, so
I
it
find that I'm almost writing more when I am in a shop, like I want to say a shopping game session, but like when it's more of the I'm having to use these pre-made NPC names just for a rainy day or shops or inventories. I feel like that's when I probably have more notes because I know my people are going to go back to them for some reason or another, as opposed to my main plot points or whatever, my main, objectives or whatever. Those all live in the head, and we know what's going to happen with those.
yeah.
But
I'll also say the last session was wrapping up like a bit of a journey, and they got to their final destination after some hecticness. So not there wasn't really a lot to write
sure.
down. It was like, hey, we fucking made it, and no one died, but almost.
Let's just breathe. Let's take this long rest, and let's just breathe for a moment. Oh man. So uh let's see. So you're in 3 games right now.
And they all have different rule sets, which I actually just realized.
I am curious about the Genesis system. I'm not gonna lie, I've never played it before. I've heard of other systems similar to using it. I mean, what's it called? Fantasy Flight with their games. They have a Star Wars one. They have a dice pool. So I'm kind of familiar with that kind of concept. But is Genesis? Are you using the mechanics for that? And like, what's the I guess kind of explain that a little bit more for me because I'm gonna be not gonna lie, I don't know about it.
So the whole dice pool thing with Star Wars and Fantasy Flight, I'm pretty sure Genesis started as the Star Wars game, and then
Ah,
they kind of made it into a little bit more of a generalized system.
okay.
Um, so how do I
Is it
explain
kind of like
the game?
success, critical success, fail, critical fail?
That's more like Savage Worlds
Okay.
in Genesis. So you have on your positive dice, you can roll either nothing, uh, because some of the dice faces are blank.
Sure.
So there's nothing. There's success, advantage, and triumph.
Okay.
So you roll all your good dice, you roll all your bad dice, which can be nothing, threat, or there's a third one, which is like extra bad threat. Um, and then you add it all up, and they kind of cancel out. So sometimes you do roll, like you'll roll like 10 dice, and it will equal 0,
Okay.
which kind of feels a little dissatisfying because you rolled
I'm
so much
sure.
stuff and nothing
Yeah.
is happening. But the way that it works when you're getting not a 0, it's like, so you go to hit someone, you succeed, um, and your dice pool will say uh, like you after you succeed, you roll your damage, and however many like successes you roll is like extra damage. And
Sure.
when you roll advantages into your dice pool, there's ways to spend the advantage. So you can't roll a 20 to get a critical hit, but you can roll with enough advantages that, like, hey, I'm going to spend 3 of these advantages to turn
Okay.
this into a crit. I'm going to
Okay.
spend one of these advantages to heal myself 1 point. I'm going to spend one of these to take an extra action.
Okay.
So it's a little bit more dynamic based on what's going on. And that goes both
Sure.
ways with the players and the DMs, right? So
Sure.
when you roll poorly, the DM now has their version of advantage to spend against you.
Okay.
So it's really fluid. There's no like, you're not rolling on a DC 15. Everything is constantly in flux with the dice pool, which is kind of fun, and it's really swingy.
Okay.
My character, sometimes I'll roll for like 27 damage and will just like punish the shit out of someone. And sometimes the dice pool just wipes itself out. And it's like
Sure.
I just bashed someone's face in last turn and do literally like I'm sneezing on someone the next turn. So it's really swingy, but it's pretty fun.
Awesome. And I guess what is there like a maximum number of die that you can roll per, I guess.
It's based on your stats.
Okay.
So like
Sure.
as your stats increase, you start to roll more dice. So
Sure.
instead of uh in D&D where you level up and it's like, oh cool, now I have a +3 to this instead of a
Sure.
+2. Um when you get experience, there's no like, hey, you leveled up, here's these things that you get. It's like, hey, here's 10 XP, and you can
Hmm.
spend it on whatever you want. So you can use it
Sure.
to upgrade your strength, or you can use it to learn a new skill or upgrade a talent or something like that. So as you're upgrading stuff, you're getting more uh, in your dice pool. So
Okay.
you can really characters are pretty dynamic because
Sure.
there's no one starts in a box.
Gotcha. And when you're playing your characters, I mean, obviously between different classes, different races, um, there can be great variance and everything. But eh, d- do you find yourself more often than not playing like do you enjoy having those super high emotional characters? Do you prefer more thought provocative characters, or do you prefer kind of those? We talked about the bard is like that middle ground as well.
I think it depends.
Okay.
It depends
Okay.
because, as a forever DM, we have like this huge roster of characters that we want to play, and some
Yep.
of them are super thoughtful, and some of them are joke characters, and some of them, are quirky or not, or just stone face and plain. So,
Sure.
um, I try not to play the same character over and over again. I think a lot of my players in our group do that as well. So it's nice to it's always kind of fresh. Even though like
Right.
it's the same humans that I'm playing with, it's not like my buddy Dylan is always playing a fighter. Like
Sure.
he'll mixes it up with, class, personality, motivations,
Sure.
whatever. Um, and I'm not bashing people that don't. I know a guy
No,
that
yeah.
pretty much always plays the same character, and like that's cool. Um, but me personally, I can't do it. I have so
Sure.
many uh characters and ideas that like
Oh yeah.
one isn't gonna sit on top.
Sure. Even yeah, easily got like 60 characters lined up that I would love to play. Probably never going to see the light of day, but they've been made.
Yeah,
And I don't know about you. I like leveling them up all the way to 20 just to kind of see like what at their highest potential they could look like. I know like some people don't necessarily like that. They like being like in that moment, be like, hey, a million things can happen between 3 and 6 to change all those decisions, let alone 3 and 20, or 1 and 20, wherever you're starting. But I like doing that just to kind of see like what my warlock would look like, if I feel like slaying my patron and become taking over.
yeah. I mean, I feel like everyone's got that min maxer in them.
Sure. And I'm not knocking min maxers because I am
No,
one at
no, me
times,
neither.
and I'm not knocking those that don't min max that strictly build for character. Everyone is welcome to the table as long as you're not a trash person, in my opinion. But as long as you're willing to work with a team and willing to work with your party and everything. Player conflict, I think, is natural as long as everyone understands this is a game, and like it's fine if it's developing the story more, and we're all still friends at the end of the day. But once it gets off the table and it becomes interpersonal, that's when I'm like, all right, we got to have a discussion and potentially changes down the line if need be.
Yeah, I've
But
been there, unfortunately.
yeah, yeah. I had when I started learning, I was unfortunately, when I was first playing, I was unfortunately one of those. I could not separate myself from my character, and so like something happened in the game, and I got heated. That being over a decade ago now, I have learned. But so aside from your content that you give full license for everyone in the world to steal and use in their own games, you also have a small business.
I do.
Yes, why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
Dungeon Soap, we do actually sell soap. I do actually sell soap. I say we like it's more than just me, myself, and I. Um, but I did start selling soap before I started making content. That's kind of where the name came from, and everything is under that umbrella, I suppose.
Sure,
Um, it's bar soap, lotion, beard oil. Most of it is all natural. There's a couple things that have fragrance oil in there.
sure.
They're 99% natural, but I label them as magic on the website instead of
There
all
you
natural, just because I think it's a little disingenuous to
Sure.
say that. Um, Most of the stuff is vegan. Everything is, like certified cruelty-free Rainforest Alliance ingredients.
Wonderful.
Um, I try to give back to causes that I care about through purchases of Dungeon Soap.
Sure.
So every purchase, a little bit gets contributed to carbon reclaim, either through oceanic or atmospheric projects, and that
Sure.
varies depending on, I guess, the month. Um,
Gotcha.
I'm trying to find a nonprofit that I can start donating to as well. There's one in the DC area. I think they're called Tabletop Nights, that does like behavioral and social benefit stuff for people with disabilities through D&D.
Oh,
So I may try to get involved with them as well. Um, the whole idea, honestly, kind of started as a joke. Um, to be honest, uh, I after an online session, you have probably had one too many beers. I'm just sitting in my apartment. I'm watching YouTube, and I'm just getting like ad after ad after ad from all these different soap companies because I was looking into upgrading my soap for myself at the time,
sure.
and the messaging from all of them was the same. It's like, you want to be a manly man. This is soap for men. This
Sure.
will help you get the ladies. And I was like, this is just not my vibe.
Yeah.
Why is there nothing? And that was like just par for the course across the entire board.
Sure.
um and there's some companies out there. I found this lady in London. uh I think she's called Bugbear Bubbles, and she
Okay.
makes like little gelatinous cube soaps.
Oh,
They're dope. They have a little dice inside of them and everything. My soap do not have dice inside of them. I'm sorry, people ask about it. I don't do that.
it's fine.
um hers do. They're super cool. But because it's coming from overseas, shipping is pretty expensive. So I was
Right.
like, look, why don't I take these pain points that I have and just do the thing? So
Sure.
I slapped together a website. I talked to some people, and everyone that I talked to they gave me the same pushback. They were like, oh, Dungeons and Dragons soap, like you're gonna try to sell to like nerds in the basement. They're stinky people aren't even gonna use that stuff anyway. And that just made me more determined because I was
Sure.
like, you're just talking about me to my face. Like I'm one of these stinky Dungeons and Dragon guys
Sure.
that you think you're talking about.
Right.
So that was very motivating for me.
Right.
Um, and here we are. And that was almost 2 years ago.
Okay. So
So
in the midst of the pandemic, you did this. And I think that you really touched on something that, like, all these ads are catered to being, you're fine, being the manly man or whatever that may be. But sometimes you just want to get something without an ulterior purpose other than just making yourself smell the way you want to smell, I guess.
yeah,
Not trying to find a mate or anything like that, or
yeah.
finding someone. And I was actually, because I got your soaps pulled up right here. So what are these kind of inspirations for these combinations? Because I see your Dungeon Turtle Scales is more of a citrus blend. I mean, Smuggler's Run's more of a spice blend. Where did you get the inspiration for these kind of mixes?
I mean, a lot of the stuff is just kind of classic scents that have been
Sure.
around for a while. The Smuggler's Run is a take on like Bay Runner, which a
Okay.
lot of folks have. Like Old Spice, Dr. Squatch. Uh,
Sure.
everyone has their version of that. So you got to have some stuff that's gonna be like casting a wider net.
Sure.
Um, but I did want to have some fun with some of the other stuff. So there are some scents that you're not going to say like no one else has them. But the one I did some newer ones recently. Bardic Inspiration is black currant and vanilla, which is something that
Mm.
I haven't seen anywhere, and that's gotten pretty good reception. So
Yeah,
um,
I'm curious about this.
the
The
soaps and the smells come
tavern.
first, the names come second.
Yeah, like this citrus IPA one. That the tavern sounds honestly sounds like a good drink. I'm not gonna lie. Uh,
I've had more people than I can count say that they've wanted to, like, take a bite of one bar or another.
just so that just in case anyone does, are these edible?
Um, I honestly, in preparation for this conversation, I was thinking about it, and
Okay.
technically, they won't kill you if you eat them, but I don't recommend that you eat them.
No. So there you go. Anyone who's curious, you can, but you probably shouldn't. But that's awesome though, just because again, getting away from the whole mainstream I guess terminology and push, just doing this for somebody else. You have stuff that is meant for the buyer to buy for themselves, not necessarily for anyone else.
Yeah,
Um,
I spend a lot of time making sure that none of the language on the website is really like gendered at all. So like even the Majestic Gardens, which is very floral, there's nothing on there that says like this soap is feminine, or there's
yeah,
no mention of like she or her anywhere on there. So
yeah,
um I don't want to, like you said, like make your own decision. And I don't, if
yeah,
you want to smell like a Majestic Garden, then that's great.
yeah.
I'm not going to tell you that that's not a manly scent if that's what you like as a man.
Well, I mean, myself growing up, like you have won the innkeeper special, which is oatmeal milk and honey. I mean, that was a rainy day breakfast for me. And so like just the thought of that made me think of the smell that I had that I would have as a kid and like how soothing that was. And that's intriguing in and of itself because again, we're doing this for ourselves. We're not doing this for anyone else. Now, if your significant other also enjoys the smell of oatmeal, milk, and honey, great. You can buy two if you want. But that's awesome. I love that. So where can they find Dungeon Soap? Not just you the actual product, but like social media and everything. Where can they find Dungeon Soap at?
I'm everywhere, man. My website is dungeonsoap.com.
Mhm.
I'm Dungeon Soap on TikTok and Facebook, and then on Instagram, I'm Real Dungeon Soap because the name was taken by somebody else.
Oh,
Um,
gasp.
yeah, yeah, gasp. And they that was 2 years ago. The account doesn't even exist anymore, and I still can't change my name to it. So it is what it is. Um, but Real Dungeon Soap on Instagram, Dungeon Soap everywhere else. Dungeonsoap.com is my website. I am working on because I have had a lot of people ask, "Hey, where can I get these images that you use in your videos?" I spin them all up in Midjourney, so I don't. It's not like I'm downloading them from anywhere. I'm working on two ways that people can get that. One through Patreon, which is
Okay.
going to have some kind of cost, or two through a newsletter, which I'm going to be setting up through my website. It's probably going to be weekly. It's going to include handful of the images that came out throughout the week. Of obviously, it's going to have a plug for buying soap because
Sure.
it is like it's a free newsletter. So I
Yeah.
gotta squeeze something in there.
Yep.
But those are definitely in the pipeline. That's come soon.
And the artwork even on these, I love it. I'm just kind of like looking through which ones I'm kind of like instantly gravitating towards, and I love the Seahawk or the Pirate Hunter. I think which is one of the most recent videos you posted.
Yeah,
But
I did that one up like a couple hours ago.
I love the sheepdog. I love that photo. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, this is just more of a prerogative to go and look at his content. Um, and but yeah, no, this I love this art. I'm not gonna lie.
It took me a little while, and I can't like I'm not an artist. I'm using AI to do it. But it did take me a little while to figure out like what kind of style did I want for my channel. And I'm happy with where we landed. I think it's pretty cool.
I think it looks awesome. It was something that if I were to order like a campaign setting or something like that from even Kickstarter or something like that, I'd expect probably this level of intricacy and artwork. It just again helps with any creative blocks you may have, even if you don't use it necessarily for that person that you have in the video. You can use it for somebody else or something like that.
Yeah.
And
At the end of the day, that's kind of the whole point. Is like
yeah,
if you can use it verbatim, but if it just gets your wheels turning, then that's fine too. Like I had one guy straight up tell me like on it was a couple months ago on some video. He was like, "This idea sucks," and I was like, "What would you do to make it better?" And then he left a super long ass comment about how he would make it better, and I was just like, "You're welcome, dude." Like that's the whole thing. Is like you have this base of jumping off point, and if you think it sucks, make it cool for your table, and now you
wonderful,
have a cool idea.
wonderful. Well, I want to thank you so much, Zach, for joining me today. Of course, everything, all social medias, all websites, it should have already scrolled past your screen at this point. If not, we're going to put them up one more time for you. Go check out his work, his content. Go check out his shop. I don't think you're going to be disappointed because I'm not disappointed, and I'm stealing a lot of his material as he's told me to. So thank you again, Zach. And for everyone who's listening and watching, thank you for coming again. And until next time, it's 5 to